Good morning, Anchorage, Alaska, the lower 48, and the rest of the world. This is Bruce Lindquist with his podcast, Wonderful Counselor. Welcome to the serial killer series, Hide and Seek. I started writing this story back in May 18th, 2024. And over a year later, this is its final 2 episodes that will be released back to back before the new year 2026. I want to thank all of you for listening and bringing in triple-digit numbers from all over the world. It's been fun to write. It'll be a little sad saying goodbye to these characters that I've gotten to know and you've gotten to know quite well. Let us begin as we usually do with a warning. This podcast contains adult content. Words create traumatic pictures. Please keep that in mind before you decide if you're going to listen to it or not. I encourage you to listen to the podcast series brought to you by Coffee House Theater in order. The first episode was titled, Does Love Have an Evil Twin Sister? Number 2, Hide and Seek. 3, Come Find Me. 4, Demonize the Body Count. 5, Candy Meets the Serial Killer. 6, Good Old Joe. 7, The Nothing People. 8, Legacy of Blood. 9, Ritual 1. 10, Ritual 2. And tonight's episode 11, Heaven and Hell Part 1. And then I am going to record and put on my platform episode 12, Heaven and Hell Part 2. And that will be the conclusion of the Hide and Seek series. Since it's been a bit since our last episode, let's revisit who the main characters are. Joe is currently in a coma. He is your main antagonist. He's the serial killer who has hunted, tortured, and killed hundreds of 25-year-old women. Candy is a 25-year-old woman, an embodiment of the prophecy, and one of the main protagonists. She is the one who almost died facing Joe. Milton Jack Fillmore is an FBI agent who has been hunting Joe for most of his adult life. Megan O'Shea is a police officer, the only one remaining alive in this series on the Anchorage Homicide Division. Amanda is Joe, the serial killer's daughter, who turned down the ritual to become a killing machine and gave her life to Christ. Misty is Amanda's best friend, who almost died in the ritual, who was also a Christian. Joan is Joe's wife, a middle-aged woman who is the antagonist, who is living her life to make sure Joe's legacy of death does not end. Tory is Joe's daughter, the new antagonist, a super-evolved serial killer who completed the ritual and recently arrived in Colorado. Jeannie is Joe, the serial killer's other daughter, who is currently in treatment for alcohol and gambling addiction. We rejoin the story. Tory and Joan just picked up a streetwalker who is 24. Tory likes women, so it was easy to lure her in the car. Tory knew she was hot, but the ritual changed her as sex was no longer an option as she traded her lesbian lifestyle to be the deadliest woman who ever walked the planet. As Tory's brain continued to evolve, she was not interested in sex at all. Her lust for the hunt was strictly an intellectual pursuit. The woman, now unconscious, was placed in a clothing trunk and taken to an abandoned hotel that a few days later would be demoed. Tory was looking up the woman's medical records on her handheld computer. She could hack into anything. Maybe that's why HIPAA is in place, to protect medical records to keep serial killers from using them to gain information on how to torture their prey, mused Tory. I doubt they thought of that, said Joan, laughing. Tory noticed the woman's psychiatric care notes, and Joan said after glancing down at the phone, "Oh, this is going to be fun." Tory would not call it fun. Her brain now was void of any emotional response that humans would have. She was becoming what Joe hoped for, a master craftsman of killing. Joan and Tory brought the woman to the top of a 15th-story building. They took her out of the trunk and positioned her on the side of the roof, so others would not see, and the dark night gave them plenty of cover as well. The woman started to wake up and was horrified she was standing on a ledge of the building, inches from falling off. She dared not move. She stared at them like an animal frozen in the headlights. Joan had put a leather collar on her, so if she did try to speak, it would be in whispers. Besides, screaming hurt Joan's ears. Terror filled the young woman's eyes. Her greatest fear was following. And Joan watched in delight as the woman's body was swaying back and forth, almost tipping over the edge. Tory walked up to her and said in a voice that sounded cold as a mortuary's freezer, "So I understand you're terrified of heights, and that if you fell when you were a child 50 feet off a building, and it was a miracle you lived. You've not even been on a stepladder since then." The woman said, "Please take me down from here." "No," said Tory. "I want to see how long you can stand there without falling. I'm not going to push you. I'm simply going to place you in an environment where you will determine how long you will live." Tory and Joan watched for about 3 hours, the woman's legs shaking terribly. She started to lean, but pulled herself back to center. By the 4th hour, she had no strength left in her legs, but a strong breeze held her for a few moments before her legs gave way and she fell. Joan and Tory watched her plummet down the side of the building to the alleyway below. The woman could not speak. Vomit poured out of her stomach, and she was drenched in her own urine as it flowed upward from her falling body. She watched breathlessly as the ground came closer and closer and closer. She closed her eyes, imagining the splat that would be left of her body upon impact, and then the bungee cord tightened and it flung her body upward. Joan and Tory took the elevator to the alleyway, watching the woman's body fly up and down. Tory took out her scalpel, and when the body dropped again, she stuck her with the scalpel. She watched her body rain blood in the air and then come back down. The woman's body finally stopped as gravity now held her suspended, her long hair barely touching the pavement. Tory looked into the woman's eyes. They were vacant, as if she left her body. Tory slapped her in her face, and the woman then looked at Tory. "Good to have you back," said Tory. "You see, the fall didn't kill you. I cured you of your fear of falling." "Thank me," said Tory. The woman couldn't speak. Joan said, "These Americans are so rude. Where are her manners?" Tory looked at the woman and whispered in her ear, "The fall did not kill you, but I will," and slit her throat. They just left her hanging on the bungee cord as blood pooled underneath her. Tory looked at Joan. "How many 24-year-old women are there in Colorado?" She paused and answered her question. "I plan to kill every one of them." In Colorado Springs, Jeannie's house, Jo, the serial killer's daughter, was now base camp for the FBI. The agents wiped it technologically clean, and it was now just secure as the main FBI building in Virginia. None of the 4 women that night wanted to be alone. They all moved into the one main master bedroom. Misty and Amanda slept in sleeping bags on the floor, and Candy and Megan slept in the main bed. Amanda couldn't sleep, so in her PJs with her blonde hair and pigtails, quietly went downstairs, tossed herself like a kid on the couch next to the fireplace, and put up her feet. Across from her sat Agent Milton Jack Fillmore, staring into the fire. "Couldn't sleep either?" asked Amanda. "No," said Jack. "I hate waiting until she kills again. It's like with Jo, always a step behind." Amanda probed Jack with a series of questions. "Do you ever wonder why he let you get so close?" asked Amanda. "I mean, why you, Agent Fillmore, when Dad leaves all the others chasing him in the dust?" Jack looked at her. "I suppose it's because I've been hunting him since his first kill." "It just doesn't make any sense," said Amanda. "Dad could care less about anyone, even his own family. And for what he told me, there were times he was wearing one of those masks He actually got so close to you he breathed in your face. Jack shook his head. I don't know, he said. Amanda cut him off. You know, you just don't know you do. What the hell's that supposed to mean? Said Jack. Well, let's backtrack, said Amanda. You and Dad are close to the same age. No, we're not. He's 82. Oh, Agent Fillmore, said Amanda. He's still wearing a mask. You mean he was 18 when I found his first kill? Asked Agent Fillmore. Partly true, said Amanda. Dad's first kill, though, was when he was a boy, when he completed the ritual. What were you doing when you were a boy, Agent Fillmore? Jack didn't say anything, and Amanda thought he'd finally fallen asleep. But Jack was not asleep. His mind returned to the days of his childhood. Hey, Mom, what's for dinner? Leftovers, she said. And don't bother your dad. He's in the office trying to figure out cases. Now, Jack's mom was named Jillian. She may have dressed plain on a poor police officer's salary, but she was anything but that. She was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Good thing she was a Christian woman and faithful to her husband. She could have had anyone in town. Jack decided, since he was a little boy, he wanted to be a police officer like his dad, John. Jack, after dinner, was motioned by his mom to go play in his room and informed him she needed to talk to his father. Jack pretended to go, like he always does, but doubled back like a stealth cat, followed her just out of sight. She knocked on the door and her husband was frustrated. Just brought you some dinner, John. I'm sorry, he said. Do you want to talk about it? Asked Jillian. No, it's police business. Jillian said, Please do not block me out, John. I'm your wife. I want to help you. But these last 3 months, you've been so preoccupied you won't let me in. You hardly eat anymore. You don't sleep. You're starting to drink more, and you've been more angry than I've ever seen you. I just need some time, he said. And she left the meal on his desk. Jack remembered his dad stared at the pictures of those women for hours. He knew his dad was a homicide detective, but that was in name only until the murders started. Jack knew there were 14 victims, all 25-year-old women. Their bodies were found scattered throughout the 7 of the 8 counties. He imagined that the reason his dad was so angry is he blamed himself for their deaths because he hadn't caught the killer. His dad often would look at his hands, and Jack thought, he's seeing their blood on his hands, and he could not wash off the responsibility he felt for letting them die. Jack waited for his dad to leave the office and go upstairs and watched the bedroom lights go off from underneath the door. He listened until he heard them making sleeping sounds, and then he crept down the stairs to his dad's office, which he's done many times. He knew exactly where the desk key was hidden and pulled out the files and read them by flashlight. If his dad couldn't solve the murder, he would, he thought. Jack was not alone with this quest. Ever since the first murder, his dad would go to the station and work on Saturdays. That gave him the opportunity to go back to his dad's desk, get the latest information on the case, and then ride his root beer-colored Schwinn 5-speed bicycle to his friends. Jack remembered he'd drop his bike, climb up a tree, knock on the door, which was connected to the floor of the treehouse. He gave the secret password, which was ruffians, and they let him in. His 5 friends, all boys around 7th grade, were there all waiting for the latest on the case. There was Billy Jones, a tall and lanky boy with brownish hair, Matt Gable. More stocky build, his hair was more sandy. J.R., a smaller boy who had more common brown hair. Stephen Madison, a pure blonde, average height. And of course Jack, who was black hair and who was the smallest of the group. Bill got quite excited and entered the new information on the board. Okay, said Bill, I know we only have an hour when you have to leave Jack and take the file back to your dad's desk. Let's see what we can figure out. There was a large map of the 8 counties, with the latest murder, Jennifer Hill, completing another county, with each of them having 2 murders. That leaves 1 left, said Matt. It's our county, said Stephen. J.R., Jack's best friend, spoke. Okay, this killer only kills 25-year-old girls. No exceptions. I don't see any other patterns, except the bodies are thrown away on the side of the road like they're garbage. Matt shared, except he does not use main roads. He uses the old country road system. Okay, said Stephen, looking at the dates of each murder. They're about 2 weeks apart. The last one was found recently. We don't have much time to figure this out. Well, said Billy, our county is the smallest in the state. It's only 50 miles long and 25 miles wide. Well, how many women that are 24 or getting ready to turn 25 are there in our county? Asked Stephen. Well, my sister turns 25 this week, said JR. Mom turns 25 this week, said Jack, just realizing his mom was in danger. Billy said, I know at least 2 women in part of the county who will be 25 soon. Altogether, the boys counted 18 women, either relatives or friends of friends. Well, if we don't stop him, there'll only be 16 left, said Matt. Okay, said Jack. How many local roads in the county? 12, counted Steve. Mostly used by farmers, given the main occupation in these parts is farming. How many farms? JR said, well, counting ours, 20-some. Dairy, just some for hay and others produce. There are also ranches for cattle and horses. We live in one of the 5, said Stephen. What if the killer's actually a butcher at the town store, said JR. They're used to cutting up things. Well, so are ranchers, responded Stephen. Okay, I have an idea, said JR. Let's every day after school ride our bikes down one of those roads. Jack said, I hate the idea we have to have another body to maybe save the next woman from dying. That's what we got, said Bill. And Jack? Better now you get these reports back to your dad's desk. JR said, I'm going with you, Jack, since we're having a sleepover at your house tonight. When Jack got back home, his dad was back. JR said he would run interference and talk with Jack's dad. And it worked. Jack made it to the office and back out. How are you doing, Dad? Said Jack. I'm good. You boys staying out of trouble? JR shared, of course. We wouldn't want you to lock us up, and smiled. When Julian got home, Jack's mother, they ate dinner. Dad went to his office, and they popped popcorn and watched TV. JR really liked Jack's mom. They were like a second family to him, after his mother died in a tragic farming accident. He was like their son after Jack's oldest brother died drowning after jumping off a high hill into the water and hitting his head. JR was the closest thing now Jack had to a brother. The boys met as agreed upon at Parkinson's Road. They rode their bikes the 7 miles. Stephen said, we could find another body today, or maybe catch the killer throwing it out in the ditch. The next day, they all met up and drove Ferguson's Road, a 10-mile stretch between the 3 farms. JR was the first to spot it. There it was on the side of the road, a large black garbage bag. He ran up to it. The other boys dropped their bikes and joined him. Do you think there's a body in it? Asked Stephen. One way to find out, said Jack, and JR opened it. JR fell back and sat on the ground. He stared straight ahead. Well, is it a body or not? Asked Bill. And he looked in, and the body fell out on the road. Stephen said, I don't recognize her. I do, said Jack. That's JR's sister. First Mom, and now my sister, said JR. My sister Kim is dead. Jack and JR rode their bikes to the police station, and the others stayed with the body. Jack's dad brought the boys back in his police car. John broke out the tape that was the crime scene. Please don't touch anything, he said. The ambulance arrived, and the young woman was clearly dead, bled out just like all the others. John interviewed the boys at the station and took his son and JR out to the dad's house. John gave him the news, and JR's father, Tompkin, broke down. Jack watched his dad interview Tompkin as compassionately as he could. Tompkin looked at John. It's been so tough. I tried to do my best with JR, his sister Kim. She sure helped out a lot with the missus being gone. Now it's just me and my boy. I don't think I have another funeral in me, John. Well, the town will pitch in for your headstone and the funeral, and I know it's been a rough year for crops and for all the farmers. Thank you, John. You're always have been there for me and our family, said JR's dad. The funeral was sad, but there was also a foreboding feeling in the air that death was not just here, but it was coming for another 25-year-old woman. All 5 of the boys could not believe the latest victim was JR's sister. That hit too close to home. John asked his wife to join him in his office and told Jack to go out and play, but to stay close. Jack listened in. John looking at Julian. You're going to be turning 25 in a few days. I want you to stay home. Do not let anyone in the house while I'm gone. Here, you know how to use this, and his dad handed her one of his guns. When Jack's mom's birthday arrived, normally it was a festive time, but neither of them could not help thinking as she blew out her candles. It was a death sentence. Jack remembered his dad decided to take the next week off and told his mom again to not leave the house. Jack also felt like he needed to protect his mom, so he stayed with her and did not go on bike rides with his friends or to school for that week. John could not afford to be on leave any longer from work, and Jack also had to go back to school. That was on a Friday. The killer only had 3 days to kill his next victim before the month ended. His mom was quite vocal and did not like being cooped up, but her protest gave way to the real danger all the women her age in the county faced. Jack remembered riding his bike home from school, called out, "Mom!" and at first thought she was just out of hearing distance because in the kitchen all the food was lying out as she was preparing to make a dinner. But after careful search, she was not there. He called his dad, and he barely hung up the phone and saw the police car race into the driveway. He remembered his dad repeating the words, "She would not leave," as if reciting a mantra to bring her back. There was no sign of a struggle or forced entry. She simply had vanished into thin air. Jack recalled when the call came in. His dad collapsed on the chair. Jack did not remember getting into the police car with his dad, but must have, for the next thing he remembers is all the police cars at the side of the river with their blue and red lights flashing. His dad's voice came back to him, "Son, stay in the car, promise me," and he did. Jack then got out of the car and followed his dad, who did not notice him. An officer asked his dad if he was sure he should continue to proceed, and his dad brushed him off and started running. Jack remembered seeing about the same time his dad did what no husband or son should witness. Mom was hanging from a tree, white as a ghost, from the loss of all her blood. Dad fell to his knees, and Jack screamed, "Mom!" Now Jack opened his eyes. He looked at Amanda and Candy, who had joined her. They said, "We're sorry to wake you." I was not sleeping. You raised some ghosts back to life with your questions, Amanda, said Jack. What did the ghost tell you? Asked Amanda. You said he was a boy when he killed his sister. Amanda replied, yes. Do you know his sister's name? No, said Amanda, he didn't tell me. You said his dad took him out to the barn to complete the ritual, and he killed his sister, and after the ritual was done, he and his dad threw her body on the side of the road like garbage. Amanda confirmed that's what her dad said. Jack asked Amanda, since the only name we have for your dad is Joe James, did he have a middle name? Amanda said, when she had thought she completed the ritual, her dad showed her the family Bible, and the words Joseph Ray James were written in the list of the names. JR was my best friend, Jack said. There's no such thing when the ritual's completed, said Amanda. Jack then heard a familiar voice in his head. It was Joe. Hello, Agent Fillmore. I am on death's door. and I asked the keeper of the ritual for one last request before I died, and he agreed. I've been reading your thoughts, and since you figured out when you were just a child I killed your mom, I wanted to give you the details of what happened. It will give you closure. Consider it my final gift to you, as the chase now has ended. When I called your mom on the phone, I told her I was hurt, I could hardly move, and that I needed her. She loved me and came without hesitation. When she got close to me, I hit her with brutal force, with a metal rod we use on the farm, with all our animals before we butcher them. When she came to, she was hanging on a rope, her feet barely touching the chair she was standing on. I did give her a choice. Do you want to bleed out slowly and watch all the blood drain out of you? Or do you want me to slit your throat and die quickly? Your mom, Jack, could not form words. Maybe I hit her too hard. I damaged her brain. Since she did not respond, I realized she defaulted the choice to me. So I took my time with her and watched. I slowly made her into a nothing person. I whispered into her ear, I'm taking everything from you. You will not get to hold your son, make love to your husband, be a grandmother. You are a worthless piece of trash, and I will leave you dead hanging here. I told her as she took her last few breaths, when your husband finds you, it will send him over the edge. Full of guilt and toxic shame, he will come back to this very spot, stare at the tree for hours, and then put a bullet in his head. He will not die right away, though, but lay on the ground for hours suffering more pain than you are. I told her she was responsible for killing her husband, since she left the house and betrayed his trust. I told her your son, Jack, will spend the rest of his days chasing after me and relive you hanging on this tree every day of his life. He will see you in every hallowed, vacant, dead woman's eyes, and in his broken little heart he will cry your name, Mommy. It is a pity you were so selfish you allowed yourself to be killed. How could a mother do such a thing to her son? I thought you loved him. Jack, said Joe, you let me kill your mother so many times over the years. I hope these memories bring you some comfort. I just thought I would finish any unanswered questions you had before I died. As far as the hunt for Tory, you can find her latest kill at this address. You can see your mom all over again hanging dead. You were a murderer like me, Jack. Those 3 nurses you killed, whose heads fell off, they are waiting to welcome you to hell when you die, where I will be waiting for you. You will be tortured forever, my masterpiece. Goodbye for now, Jack. The phone rang and Jack picked up the phone. He hung it directly back up. His voice was as cold as ice. They found a body. The FBI helicopter was in Denver in record time, with all of them in tow. Soon they were in an alleyway, staring at what was left of a nameless woman. And Joe was right. Jack saw his mom hanging there all over again, and that little boy in him said, Mommy. Amanda looked at the woman's face. She looked more terrified than Misty did when she almost killed her. One of the FBI agents accompanying them said, It doesn't fit the M.O. Yes, it does, said Jack. She's following his pattern. He hung the bodies in his early killing days. Candy looked at what was left of the woman's throat, an indent of leather collar. She then noticed the woman's stocking. There was a bulge, and in it was her ID. Candy read out loud her name, Jenna Harrison. She was 24 years old. Amanda said, if someone were listening to us, like we were characters in a story, they'd be relieved she did not kill them like Dad did. That would be so boring, listening to the same story. I'd kill myself. I hate over-redundance. Jack said, well, we're all in the same story. I just checked her record, said the FBI agent. She had an extreme fear of heights and of falling. She almost died from one when she was a younger girl. Amanda said, well, Tory's a new type of serial killer. She doesn't cut your throat and watch you bleed out. She tortures you first with your greatest fear. Candy said, let's go to the top of the building. Candy saw what happened. The woman was placed on the edge. She had no idea she had a bungee cord on her leg. Amanda said, my dad was teaching me how to provide an environment where the victim is put in a position to make a choice. Yes, like we were, said Misty, when we were wrapped in barbed wire cocoons and our wills gave out and the razor wire severed our bodies. Amanda looked at the edge. Tory put her there and waited till her legs gave out. The woman didn't know she had a bungee cord around her neck. Jack said, did you see the blood on the side of the building? Tory must have sliced her when gravity brought her down and then back up on the band. Misty said, what a horrible way to die, being literally scared to death. If only we knew where she was going to kill again, said Jack, frustrated and full of guilt. Candy said, we do know. It's been troubling me. That's what we're missing. I now remember the necklace. Jeannie's being used as a scope for a gun for Tory. We have to find her, said Jack. Joan called Jeannie at the Wilderness Rehab Center. You've been doing just as I asked. The camera's working well. Tory has been reading the medical files on the young women, a specific one named Susan. We'll be there shortly. Jeannie hung up and opened Susan's door. There she was lying on the floor. Jeannie had called the ambulance and continued CPR. Susan remained unconscious where she just collapsed on the floor. The ambulance arrived in record time, and 2 ER techs did CPR in the room and then loaded her in the ambulance with IV hooked up and drove away. The woman, when she came to, was not in a hospital, but in a clear, life-size box. She pushed on all sides, but there was no way out. She was trapped. Tory and Joan, now out of their EMT clothes, greeted the woman. Hi, Susan, said Tory. The woman asked where she was, and Tory said, you're safe in the hospital, probably just dreaming up the whole thing. You had a little heart attack, or what seemed to be one. Actually, your new friend Jeannie slipped you a little something, so it would look like you did. Let me out, said the woman. I will in a bit, said Tory. What do you want from me? Screamed the woman. Well, I was looking at your psych records, and you almost drowned as a little girl falling off that fishing boat when you were with your family on the lake. And ever since, you've had a fear of drowning, which is quite rational given what happened to you. So I thought I would help you overcome your fear. Consider it part of your therapy, said Tory. And I promise you, after I'm done with you, you will not fear the water ever again. For I have a tried and proven way to help women overcome their phobias. Tory said, I will give you an opportunity in the end, so I won't let you drown. The woman said, let me out! And Tory started pumping in the water, and the woman screamed. She backed away, running to the end of the plexiglass container. She was frantic, crawling at the walls, leaving blood dripping from them as her fingernails broke. Tory watched the woman get on her tiptoes. Just the feel of the water touching her feet caused her to scream more. Joan enjoyed the show. Tory just watched her masterpiece in the making. As the water rose to her knees, she pushed her face so hard against the plexiglass, more blood formed as she broke her nose. Tory watched the water rise up her pant leg to her stomach. Joan said, it's like a sea of knives carving up her body as it crawls up her skin. By the time the water reached her shoulders, she was not moving anymore. She was like a frozen block of ice. As the water reached her neck, Joan watched in anticipation as it covered her mouth. The woman returned in her mind to that little girl floating, then sinking in the lake. Tory climbed on top of the container. It had a secret opening. Come up here, said Tory, before you drowned, and the woman out of survival kicked herself up to the surface of the waters. You're safe, said Tory in a reassuring voice. You didn't drown. and she could see the woman had reverted to being a little girl. "Daddy's going to save you," said Tory, and the woman smiled as Tory pulled her partly out of the water. "I'll be okay?" she asked. "No," said Tory, and she slit her throat and watched the body sink into the tank, which quickly clouded the water with her blood. Joan watched Susan's body float lifelessly suspended underwater. Joan said, "That was beautiful, Tory. Just beautiful." Tory said, "I made her wish she had drowned in that lake." Tory then focused her mind on Candy. There she was and spoke to her. "I have another work of art to show you," she said, and gave her the address. They both stayed hidden and watched all of them come in and find the body. "This is better than watching the telly," said Joan. Even though Agent Fillmore's mom did not die by drowning, he saw her there floating, and Tory knew it. It was perfect. The final touches on this portrait of pain and torment. Tory and Joan watched them leave and then drove over to the rehab center and visited with Jeannie. Jeannie had told the other 9 women to wait in their rooms for her, which they did. They opened the door one by one and Tory slit their throats. She didn't have time to give them what they feared, so she said in each of their ears they were nothing people and didn't have to worry about relapsing with their addiction, and their treatment was over. Joan was disappointed they did not get to torture them. There wasn't enough time, and Jeannie was sick to her stomach. "I can't do this anymore," she said to Tory. "I know," said Tory, and took her gold collar off her. "You're free," she said, and then slit Jeannie's throat and watched her die on the floor. Joan was startled. "Why did you kill her?" "I'm not coming back here," said Tory. "I don't do rehab." Tory, as she was leaving, put a paper sack in another woman's room and drove away. When Joan and Tory were back at the hotel, Joan was visibly upset. "Killing Jeannie was not part of our plan." "It was part of mine," said Tory, busy poring over another woman's medical records. "Oh, this one's afraid of fire," said Tory. And Joan said, "What's the name of the woman?" "It's you," said Tory, and Joan fell with her teacup as it broke on the floor. Joan awoke. She was sitting in a shower. She recognized it. It was just like the one she tortured Amanda in. So many times. "I thought you'd recognize it," said Tory. "You tortured her with water pressure. I'm going to do the same to you, only with fire." Joan said, "I'm your mentor. You can't do this to me. Besides, I'm not 24. "I don't believe in all that mumbo-jumbo," said Tory. "My brain has evolved past superstition." "Joe won't let you do this. He's dead," said Tory. "You both gave this gift or curse to me, and now it's only fitting I show my appreciation by making you one of my masterpieces." Joan said, "You little ungrateful bitch. After all I did for you." Tory said, "I won't kill you. I will just put you in an environment where you'll choose how you will die. The fire will start at your toes. You know, Joan, it is one of the most sensitive parts of your body. Then it will climb slowly, just like the water did with the woman you watched drown. In your hand you have a switch. Just click it, and a large blast of fire will instantly burst your body into flames. Joan, you always were a nothing person. Pathetic, really, giving your body away to my dad. And when he had sex with you, he saw you as a piece of garbage." Tory watched as Joan's first toes burned. She listened to her scream. "I can see why you don't like loud sounds, Joan. Your voice is so annoying." Joan's feet were completely blackened. She said, "I will not give you the satisfaction. I am British. I will keep a stiffer upper lip." Tory felt nothing for Joan as the fire slowly consumed the bottom of her legs. Tory said, "You know what will burn next, Joan," as the fires crawled up higher in her legs. Joan clicked the switch, but nothing happened. Tory said, "Maybe the switch was stuck. Keep clicking." As the middle of Joan's body now was burning, and the fire leaped on her stomach and consumed her chest. "Please," begged Joan, "make the switch work." And then it did, and a blast of fire burnt the rest of her body, and her face melted to the floor. Tory in her mind contacted Amanda. "I just wanted you to know. You don't have to worry about your mom torturing you in the shower anymore, and you can find her at this address." The FBI agents and women arrived. Tory was in hiding, but close by. Misty said, "You need to forgive her, Amanda." and she thought of all the torture and horrible things her mom did to her and did to all those other women. I forgive you, Mom, said Amanda. I release any debt I have held over you. I give you to God, for he is perfect mercy and justice, and I am neither. Amanda felt her heart lightened, and Tory watched Amanda pick up her mom's head off the floor, and it burst into ashes, covering her like a broken funeral urn. Tory then in her mind contacted Candy. You're responsible for my dad being in a coma, she said, and dying. No, said Candy. It was the Holy Spirit that lives in me. He just let Joe's evil consume him. Tory said, I don't believe in evil, Candy, or God. It is just killing, and it is what I do. It's nothing personal. Can you imagine how glorious my artwork will be as I terrorize and kill every 24-year-old woman in Colorado? Are you bragging? Is that ego I'm hearing? Asked Candy. Then she paused. Did you call me, Tory, just to torment me? No, said Tory. I'm going to give you an opportunity for me to spare the lives of your friends and everyone you hold dear. I'm not concerned about the others getting in my way. They cannot. But you, on the other hand, I know the prophecy Joe told me, and while I see it as mere myth, you believe it, and that makes you dangerous to me. So I just go back to Alaska and let you kill these women in Colorado, and then you'll just go on, state to state, killing hundreds if not thousands. Yes, said Tory, but I will not kill any of those dear to you. If you do not accept my offer, you may stop me, but everyone close to you will die. And you know it's true because you've foreseen it, as have I. Candy said, this is between you and me. They will all die, said Tory, and you will have made them into nothing people. You're just like Jack, a murderer. Admit it. You enjoyed bashing that woman's head in the concrete floor when you were in prison, did you not? You're a coward, said Candy. Your brain hasn't evolved near to what Joe's was. I'll send them all away, and it will be just you against me. Tory, in your brain evolved enough for that, or are you going to continue to play these devilish childhood games? Very well, said Tory. Where do you want to meet? There's a ski lodge that closes for the winter just off Highway 36. I'll find it, said Tory. I'll see you there at 3? You agree to come alone? Of course, said Tory, as long as you do. Candy took a gulp from her water bottle, cleared her throat. She looked at Agent Fillmore. Jack, she said, Joe is dead. Go back to Alaska. This is not your battle anymore, it's mine. All of you hear me, said Candy. I want you to go with him. Amanda said, not on your life. Then you all will die, said Candy. She is not bluffing. I have seen it come to pass if you do not leave. Normally, none of them would have left, but Candy spoke with such authority. They boarded the plane and reluctantly flew back to Alaska. Candy prayed and asked God to help her be prepared to face Tory. This is the end of episode 11, Heaven and Hell. Join me for episode 12, Heaven and Hell, part 2, for the terrifying conclusion of the hide and seek story.